Congress found a British woman guilty of making a false claim of rape in a case that has deeply divided the country.
The decision of the court is respected, but we respectfully disagree. We are planning to appeal.
The 19-year-old woman left the court with her face covered shortly after the verdict was delivered. The case was initially reported as a gang rape, but the judge said the woman later retracted her statement. She faces a $1,900 fine and up to a year in prison. Sentencing will take place early next year. For more on this, I'm joined by criminal defense lawyer Elliott Willschick. Elliott, thanks a lot for your time today.
Thank you very much, Angie.
A lot of questions being asked about this case. Give us your take on what you think happened here.
It's a bit unusual because when someone is found to be a complainant, they're usually accorded a lot of leeway in terms of their allegations. So my understanding is that when she was first questioned, they didn't record her initial statement, which is something that we do in Canada for all complainants in all cases. And that's important for her as well as for the defense. But going forward, in terms of her allegations, then it seems like she was also forced to retract them without actually talking to a lawyer. So there's a lot of concerns here in terms of how their justice system really put her in a difficult situation.
And I guess it does sort of raise the question then with regards to other situations, other cases, women coming forward or not coming forward for several reasons. But where will this case go from here? Because as you mentioned, certain things were done in this situation here, in this case, where she was being questioned. I understand she was questioned for several hours. She did not have a lawyer present. Things that were done that would not be done here in Canada based on the legal system, on the justice system here. So where things go from here with regards to this case? We know that her lawyer is planning on appealing.
It seems that Cyprus may need to review their overall system and how they deal with these types of cases, because we've had these protections for a while. The Me Too movement was a bit of a watershed moment for the legal system as well, because there's basically a new lens put on cases like this, and they realize the standards that they help women to, such as how quickly they report and how consistent they are with their allegations, maybe weren't in check with the way a victim actually acts afterwards. So I think they're going to have to take a long, hard look at their justice system to make sure that justice was done here.
What about when we're looking at, she's a British woman, she's in a different country there, so the laws are very different compared to what she would be facing if this were in Britain, compared to, of course, what she's facing in Cyprus. So, sort of, what about those legalities?
Well, in terms of international law, once you go to a different country, then you're under their laws. But at the same time, considering that she was alone there with the police and that it seems she was somewhat pressured to give that retraction, those are all some really serious concerns. So overall, under the circumstances, normally what happens in Canada, if someone's found not guilty, the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. And a lot of judges these days, if they find someone not guilty, will say, well, I think something happened here, just not beyond a reasonable doubt. So to go that far to find that she was lying is rather concerning. And perhaps her country can get Cyprus to reconsider in terms of a sentence or what have you, and just to get her home.
Yeah, and they have also raised, the UK raising a number of concerns with regards to the fair trial guarantee.
Yes, absolutely. And it doesn't seem that she was accorded those benefits. And the way that the men went home and celebrated and publicly called her names that were rather disparaging, it's all rather concerning. And I think that it needs to draw attention to Cyprus, and the people that go to any country should have a heightened sense of awareness of what's going on in terms of how to protect themselves as well.
Yeah, heightened sense of awareness, as you mentioned, but also now raising the concerns. This is a potential victim. She could have suffered or could be suffering some post-traumatic stress over something that may have occurred. How would all of that perhaps play into this when we're looking at a very delicate case like rape?
Well, that's the thing. She's required to stay there. She's been there for years. She hasn't been able to leave the country. And in terms of the actual allegations, if one were to examine them, she does report this rather quickly. Her friends take her to the doctor's office. She does show signs of having some sort of post-traumatic stress disorder, and they've made it much worse by putting her through this. So those are all things that they may want to reconsider in terms of an appeal and to examine whether or not she actually got a fair trial.
Yeah, we'll have to keep a close eye on those developments. Criminal defense lawyer Elliott Willschick, thank you so much for your expertise on this, Elliott. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Annie.
Oh, you're so